In the year 2025, you don't own pretty much anything. You don't own your music, your movies, your software, your car, your coffee machine. You basically rent it, or you have a license to use it, which is basically renting something without paying monthly, just like renting a house. You have limits on what you can and cannot do. Sometimes it's extreme, like you can't put anything on the walls or change the locks. And sometimes it's more lenient. But one thing both those places have in common is you don't own the property, you rent it. Because with actual ownership, you can do whatever you want. That is your product. You own it. There isn't some corporation behind it saying you can or cannot do this. If I want to get a giant poster, a picture of Dr. Pepper, a poster of Dr. Pepper and put it on my wall, I can. If I was renting my car, I couldn't wrap it any way I want. There are certain restrictions I must follow. Now, for a bunch of you, you might be asking, okay, well, that's renting, you know? What does this have to do with my movies, my coffee maker, my phone, my computer, my video games? That's a question that hasn't really been talked about enough. So the whole reason I'm making this video is Nintendo has changed their terms of service. Basically stating that if you violate any of their terms, they have the ability to brick your console. And I'm very careful with my words here because when I say brick your console, I'm not saying banning you from using their online services. That means like turning your actual system into a paperweight. Your $200 to $300 system is effectively useless. And you would think you paid for it, you should be able to do what you want. Here's the thing as well. With absolute freedom, you can do what you want. I have a Nintendo 3DS. And I have homebrewed it, so it's jailbroken, and I've installed a custom theme. Personally, I don't think that should warrant my entire system that I paid actual money for to become effectively useless. And because this new terms of service agreement or whatever is mandatory, you have to accept this or you cannot use your own console. Why? I paid for it. It's my console. It's in my name. I have the receipt for it still. But I digress. The change to the terms of service also makes it so if you accept, you waive your rights away to join in on a class action lawsuit against Nintendo. And haven't there been many class action lawsuits against Nintendo for selling faulty products? Like their infamous Joy-Con drift? Now, I'm not really worried about my console getting bricked. I haven't jailbroke it. I just put my games in and play. But the fact that they have this ability now that they've actually ripped my rights to the console. Why is it that they have as much rights to my own console as I do? In fact, they have more. And this isn't just about Nintendo either. If you buy an iPhone, to this day, Apple still tells you what you can and cannot install. And yes, I will acknowledge the fact that there are European lawmakers basically pressuring Apple, but Apple is making it extremely difficult for people who have bought their product, who have bought their phone, to actually install what they want. For example, Epic Games versus Apple. You cannot install Fortnite on an iPhone in North America. It's just simply not possible without some crazy fucking workarounds. And at the end of the day, it's not really even a real iPhone port. You're playing through like streaming services. And even Apple for the longest time said no to that. Why is it that this company that has no longer any attachment to the phone they sold me so invested in telling me what I can and cannot install on there? If you bought a car and GMC or Ford or whoever said you can't replace a tire unless you come to us, I don't know, but I probably wouldn't be buying a Ford if they made it illegal for me to change my own tire. So the question really is, what do we really own anymore? And not much. We have, when it comes to movies, we have all these streaming services. We have Netflix, Disney, HBO, Paramount, all these different services. And no one's really buying VHSs or DVDs anymore. So the physical actual media, the offline media, is no longer on your device on a storage medium that you have. You are just borrowing it from their servers. The same thing with music. You're not buying CDs, you're streaming from Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music or wherever you get your music from. When it comes to games, we buy on Steam, the PlayStation Store, the Xbox Store, the Nintendo Store, and basically, here's the kicker. Once those servers go offline, you can't pull your games from anywhere. If I bought Minecraft on the Microsoft store. And Microsoft said, okay, we're shutting down our storefront, our servers. Where am I downloading the Minecraft copy from? Because it has to be somewhere. I have to grab it from somewhere. But then they shut it down. So even though I paid the $30 cost of the game, I can no longer download it. You see, we don't have that problem with physical games, which is why I've recently shifted towards buying physical games for my PlayStation. On PC, it's a little different of a story because we have Steam and Epic Games and all these other storefronts. So it's competitive, really competitive, where you can get insane deals if you know how to shop around. But it's still a license. A license being you have the permission to download and use the game. And as we move further towards this dystopian future, we have services like Xbox Game Pass where you're renting your games. Not like before where you have a license, you're actually paying monthly to play your games. PlayStation has it. I think Nintendo has something similar to it. I don't think Steam or Epic Games has it, but I know EA has their EA Play thing. And for some people, it might be a good deal, right? You want to play a game for a month or whatever, and instead of dropping $80 to play the game, you spend $10. You can play it for a month. And to some people, that's a good deal. But for me, I like to go back to my games. I like to own it. I like to know that regardless of my financials, I can go in, jump in, and have a good time. And we've seen that regardless of if you drop a bunch of money, you buy your games, you stream them, you use your Game Pass or whatever, it's still all prone to their servers. It's prone to their willing to uphold your license. When Sony and their PlayStation servers went offline, when they went offline for a few days recently, like a few months ago, you could not play your games. You could not play online games. You could not play single player games. You could not play the games you purchased because you don't own them. You're borrowing them. And when it comes to software, do you know how much Photoshop is? It's like $22 a month. $22 a month. There are services like Affinity Photo 2, which I use for all my thumbnails, which does 90% of what Photoshop does. I would even say 95%. It's a very close, very good Photoshop alternative. And I paid $50 once. I've never paid a dime to Affinity since that moment. Do I own Affinity? No, because I'm still bound by their license, their servers. But I think we need to start by pushing away from this subscription kind of model. And then maybe down the road we can start talking about actual ownership again. But I've been rambling for too long. I've been monologuing for probably like 10 minutes, 9 minutes or something. I know it's probably going to be shorter on your end because I'm going to cut a bunch of the dead space out. But, stop supporting these companies. That's all I really got to say. And have a nice rest of your day, I guess. Peace.